all three of you at the White House and have met with you since independently. We thank you for accepting the responsibility of being nominated, and we wish you the very best of luck and stand here to be supportive of everything that you try and do. With that said, we'll start the testimony. Mr. Allen, I'll call on you first for up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Isaacson, Ranking Member Tester, and members of the committee. I'm honored to have been nominated by the President to be a judge of the United States Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. First, I want to thank the committee and its staff for the way in which you've treated this nomination. And I also want to thank the White House Counsel's Office, and in particular Associate Counsel Rob Luther, for their help in this process. I also want to start out by thanking some people who've been instrumental in my life. My wife Debbie and my sons Ben and Noah mean everything to me. I love them more than they can imagine. They couldn't be here today because of a family obligation, but they're here in spirit. I'm also grateful for the support of my in-laws, Bob and Judy, my sister Mary and her family, my brother-in-law Bob and his family. Both my parents and my other sister Michelle have passed away, but I wanted to recognize them too. And I have to acknowledge the thousands of students I've taught at Stetson University College of Law. I can assure you that they've given me far more than I ever taught them. And finally, I want to thank my best friend, Jason Stearns, who's a veteran of the U.S. Navy. He's here today. He's always been there for me. And through his example, I've learned a great deal about living with integrity. So thank you, Jason. Prior to 1988, veterans who believed that they were wrongfully denied benefits by the VA had no recourse. Those veterans had to rely solely on the VA to get it right with no judicial oversight. And the Supreme Court called this the era of the VA's splendid isolation. That era of splendid isolation came to an end when Congress passed and President Reagan signed into law the Veterans Judicial Review Act in 1988. And that provided for judicial review of VA decisions for the first time before a new federal court, the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. The judges of that court faced an awesome task. They not only had to create law where none existed, but they actually had to create an institution. And as the court approaches its 30th anniversary, it's important to recognize what the men and women who've served on that court did. I think we owe them a debt of gratitude. Now, I firmly believe that the introduction of judicial review has been a success, but there is much work still to be done. As this committee knows all too well, there are serious challenges facing the VA Veterans Benefit System. The system's staggering under the weight of more than 1.5 million applications for benefits coming in the door every year. And there's a large backlog of appeals, as you suggested, Mr. Chairman, with veterans facing delays of years to have those appeals adjudicated at the agency. This committee has recently considered that very issue, and no doubt Congress and the Department will continue to do so. But I believe the court will also play a pivotal role in addressing these systemic challenges. But at the same time, of course, the court has to be cognizant of the need to resolve individual veterans' appeals fairly and expeditiously. So as I said, there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm quite frankly excited to get to doing it. I believe I can make a meaningful contribution to the court. I graduated from Columbia Law School 25 years ago. I spent 9 years in private practice in Boston, Massachusetts, and since 2001, I've been a professor of law at Stetson in Florida. Now, I came to veterans law accidentally. I spoke at the 2005 Judicial Conference of the Court, and I was asked to speak precisely because I knew nothing about veterans law and was an expert in the federal court system. But I have to tell you, I got hooked at that first conference. And for the last 12 years, I've spent my professional life focusing on veterans law. I've spoken across the country and written widely in the field. I've testified before this committee before, as well as its House counterpart. And the result of all of this is that I firmly believe that I'm the right person at the right time to fill one of these vacancies. It will be the highlight of my career should I be confirmed and take a seat on the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. I can promise you that I will strive every day that I am a judge to deliver equal justice under the law to everyone who appears before me. In March 1865, only a few hundred yards from where we're sitting right at this moment, President Lincoln gave, as Mr. Bowman said, his famous second inaugural address. And only a few weeks before he would be assassinated, the president rallied the country to come together and bind its wounds, and specifically called on the nation to care for him who borne the battle, and his widow and his orphan. By becoming a judge on this court, I'll be able to carry out President Lincoln's exhortation on a daily basis. and quite frankly, I can't think of a better way to spend one's career. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for considering the nomination.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member Tester. I also want to thank Ken Kramer